Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
And I'm Pepper.
And today we're reacting to the Dice Tower Award winners, which actually I was lucky enough to be at Gen Con at the show, so I got to see it live. And yeah, the whole award show is a little bit different than what they typically do since they, for the first time, did it at Gen Con, so it was live. I think they've done it. I think it's been live before,
Yeah.
but it hasn't involved skits and stuff like this one did. So there were some pretty funny things.
Yeah.
Some definitely more funny than others, but most of the things hit. It seemed
Yeah.
like so. We had made predictions, you and I, for the third year in a row, and I think you had got the results. I don't think we said these. We kind of thought we knew what they were when we made our predictions this year, but you went back and actually looked at how many we actually have gotten right in previous years.
Yeah.
With you in 2020, what was it? I had gotten 5 right and you got 7 right, winning that year. And in 2021, I had 8 right and you had 5 right, so I'd gotten a win back there.
Yeah,
And
it
then
took
we
the
predicted
total
this year.
lead up 13 to 12.
That is true, and that might be important.
Might be.
Because, then we made our predictions for this year, and, we can kind of just go through the different awards and see if we got them right and see what our thoughts are. As we said in the other video, we haven't played all the games in here, and even, like, some that we picked, it's just speculating because we haven't actually played it ourselves, so it was kind of somewhat based on kind of the feel we got from other people that have played these games, and just guessing. So
Yeah.
let us know below if you got all the guesses right, if you knew who was going to win these awards,
Yes.
and if you agree with who won.
Yeah.
What's the first category?
The first category is Best Welcoming Game. And I guess, my prediction was Ready, Set, Bet, and yours was Flamecraft. I would still stand by my pick, and I think you definitely stand by your picks because Flamecraft did end up taking this category. It is a pretty welcoming game from what I've heard.
Yes.
And I think the artwork really helps that too.
Yeah, we hadn't played either of our guesses, so we didn't really know. But just from the sounds of it, Flamecraft did sound like it was a pretty welcoming game. And then Ready Set Bet is almost to the party game level. It seems like so. I think that's another. I think both of them are really great options. So I could have easily seen either one winning. But I think there's something about that cutesy dragon artwork that kind of has won people over and surprisingly continued to win them over because I think we kind of mentioned in the other video we were wondering if maybe the heat from Flamecraft would have worn off by now a little bit. Still played and stuff, but maybe not be as hot as it once was. But no, it stayed the hottest welcoming game.
Yes. And on to the second one, which was Best Expansion. And there were 2 Dune Imperium expansions nominated. The first one, which was Rise of Ix, and then the second one, Immortality. We both went with Immortality. And it looks like we should have gone with the first one because Rise of Ix ended up taking this one. And we debated a little bit in the video if that would split the votes too much so that neither could possibly win, or if maybe people would just go to the first one. Maybe more people have played that, or maybe that first impression for that first expansion that they played, maybe that would wear off a little bit by the time they got to the second one.
I guess when
kicking myself a little bit.
I am as well because I feel like when I was first initially thinking about it, I thought Rise of Ix for sure because I felt like that was the one that I'd heard more about, but then I thought, well, maybe that's just because it's older or it's been around because I think they put that one out at the beginning of the year and then put out the second one at the end of the year, and maybe that probably actually hurt the second one. Maybe wasn't as played, but it sounded like people were maybe leaning that one. Some people, but apparently not all of them. Because, Rise of X won, so neither of us got that right. So I'm still up 1-0.
And we got to hold our fingers up throughout our score. Although I'm going to need my toes pretty soon at 0 right now. On to Party Game, which we mentioned Ready, Set, Bet, kind of going close to a party game, and we both picked it, and we were both correct. Ready Set Bet did take this one, and if you've ever witnessed a gameplay of this, especially with Tom Vessel hosting, which we did quite a few times in every night in Vegas at the World Series of Board Gaming, it definitely fits that party game title.
Yes, and like most party games, I think it is what you put into it too a little bit. So I mean, yeah, the more kind of not necessarily crazy, but more wild and crazy you are, I think the funner this game and probably any other game is going to be in the party type genre. So yeah, it looks like a good one. Yeah, I'm not too surprised that one won.
Yeah. And I'm on the board now, finally.
Yes,
1 point.
2-1.
And on to, I've got the advantage here for sure. Solo game.
You really should.
Solo game. I went with the only one that was solo only in Batman The Dark Knight Returns. And you went with probably the biggest, probably most, maybe not most popular, there were a few others, but Return to Dark Tower you went with, which is cooperative, which definitely lends itself to that, and that would have been my other pick, and I probably should have went with it, because Return to Dark Tower did end up taking the solo award, and it was probably hurt because my last solo play of it was with the expansion, Alliance's expansion, and that was a lot to manage with just one person because that adds an effect to every corner of the board, and I was like, oh my goodness.
A lot going on, a lot to manage for one person.
Yeah, so
yeah, I had never actually played it solo. I don't play as many games solo. I have played that one cooperatively, and yeah, I was just kind of basing it off of that one maybe being popular enough. But yeah, I think when you were describing the Batman one to me, I don't think I had done my research on it, so you had kind of like won me over. I was like, I actually didn't even consider that one at all, but you made it sound like it was probably at least a solid nomination that was made. So
yeah, Mike DeLisio led me astray. He talked all this great stuff about the Batman game.
What does Mike know about solo games? What does Mike know?
If I lose, it's on you, Mike. On to up one player to 2-player games. And we both went with 2-player only games. There were a few of them. I went with Caesar, which is kind of a sequel to Blitzkrieg, and you went with Splendor Duel, which is, I don't know, like you would say sequel to Splendor, but I say sequel to Seven Wonders Duel, the other 2-player version that Bruno Catala made for an existing game. And I'd say, if I had played Splendor Duel, I still haven't played it, but
I had played it at the time.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was the one out of the options that seemed like it had been the hottest one or most talked about one. But yeah, I thought Caesar was probably good as well because I was a pretty big fan of Blitzkrieg, and it sounded like it had some similar things. And since then, I have actually had the chance to play Caesar, and it is a pretty solid one. I think it's actually a little bit lighter than Blitzkrieg, so there's that. But yeah, so Splendor Duel did end up winning. Did take the win. So I went up 4-1.
4-1.
He can't possibly come back, can he?
The comeback kid. And let's try to start that with the reprint. And we both went with Return to Dark Tower here.
So he ain't going to gain anything on me.
Nope. At this point, he felt pretty confident in his picks, and he was just going to match me from here on out.
I knew how the beginning was going to go when I had made these predictions, and then, I just matched him from that point forward.
Yeah,
maybe.
So you can just quit watching now. It's going to be 4-1 at the end. But yeah, so Restoration Games, and obviously heard Return to Dark Tower has the most nominations of anyone, so it's pretty popular, and this is what it is remaking an old game, so it felt like a no-brainer.
But the cat in the box had a brain of its own and took this. I feel like this one was maybe the first one that I felt was maybe a steal, but I don't. At the same time, it is a solid game. I have not. I don't know what the original was like, I guess. Because Return to Dark Tower, was it similar? I don't know that one either.
No, I think that was competitive, and there is a competitive mode in this new one, but I think it's competitive, and there's a bunch of people that love that original and have that nostalgia and prefer that over the new one. But like Tom Vassell even says, he's like, oh, I don't even play. I don't know if he's played it, but doesn't talk too nicely of the old version. And so having not played that, I can't really say how close it is, but.
Yeah. But yeah, I suppose, I don't remember what the other nominees were, but Return to Dark Tower and Cat in the Box probably are both good options for this one.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a little bit of a surprise,
Yeah.
considering we both picked Return to Dark Tower, but at the same time,
and
it's still understandable.
Cat in the Box, like, we didn't know that was a reprint.
Right, that's the thing, too.
So I think I don't know. I feel like, because another one was like a deluxe version of Castles of Mad King Ludwig, and like it's just more apparent or whatever that it is a reprint, and I think this one we just overlooked
a totally different game.
Overlooked it.
Totally, yeah. I guess I don't even know if maybe in the rule book and stuff maybe it says it's a re-implementation. I don't even know if I'd have to go and look.
Yeah, but congratulations, it's a great game. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm still up. 4-1.
4-1. On to cooperative games, and
another thing you know a bit about.
Yes, same thing as Solo. I went with Return to Dark Tower. You went with Lands of Gelzir, which I had not played at the time, so you had a bit of an advantage playing more games in this series. But
I did, and I think this one probably got a little bit personal. This time it's personal. This time it's personal. But sort of not, because we did not actually play the cooperative version. We played the competitive one. But I was just under the impression that maybe the cooperative one is maybe even better, because the competitive one seemed like the point scoring was kind of tacked on a little bit, and it was more just a story game, and you're just kind of getting these points for reasons. But no, it is a really solid game, in my opinion. Compared to my one-player Return to Dark Tower, I did not have the best experience, so I think that might have influenced my pick a little bit.
Yeah.
But really, considering I picked Return to Dark Tower for Solo, I really probably should have also picked it for cooperative, because of the reason I picked it for Solo is because it was a cooperative game. So it all makes sense, sort of not.
One more point for Pepper.
You did get a point.
Return to Dark Tower takes the cooperative.
Returns you to 4-2.
Yes, half his points. And let's try to keep that momentum going into new publisher. Best game from a new publisher. I went with Flamecraft from Cardboard Alchemy. And this might be, I think Peter Vaughn is involved with Cardboard Alchemy, and he was also involved when Dwellings of Eldervale was made. He was involved in that, so I've kind of known of Cardboard Alchemy from its beginning, so that, in addition to Flamecraft obviously being a very beautiful game, I think that also gave it an edge for me. And you went with Planet Unknown from Adam's Apple Games, which has just been one of the most popular, hottest games in our collection ever since it arrived at all player counts.
Yes, and it is also a Minnesota company, so that kind of brought me in there a little bit as well.
And a great production.
It is a great production.
A great price for whatever you got it at then. I just remember, I forget what it is, but I was like, wow, the amount of wonderful components in this game for that price.
Yeah, I feel like it was like 60 or something, and maybe shipping. I don't even remember if there was a shipping, but it was probably like 60-ish bucks, I think, in the original campaign. So
and I
thought it was pretty solid.
There were fewer, like, just non-upgraded copies that were backed, so then all of those were upgraded.
I think they upgraded
to the deluxe, so that's also just like an awesome thing to do. So just positive things for them, but the Minnesota pride came back to bite you because Flamecraft from Cardboard Alchemy did end up taking this one.
It did.
And helping my comeback. Now it's 3-4.
And I will say, after it won this one, it got me a little bit worried about a pick later on for Game of the Year. It's had me a little bit worried after it won this one. But we'll get to that. So it's 4-3 at this point.
4-3.
Tightening up again.
Yes. From new publisher to new designer. And you went with who you called the next Bruno Catala.
I did say that.
Massaud, who designed Acropolis. And I went with Dan and Cora Hughes, who designed Cora Quest. So it's like, new designer, what is newer than a child? Don't know how old she is. What is it?
That's true.
7, 8 years old.
I don't even know how old she is. Pretty young.
But I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like that is such a great story. Father-daughter designing a game, and I feel like that's the heart of the game, and that's what this award is for. So I went with that. Maybe I shouldn't have gone with my heart.
You wouldn't have picked Acropolis anyway, because when I called him the next Bruno Catala, you were like... No, I don't remember what you said.
That's exactly what
But
I
Acropolis did win, so it got me back on the winning streak. Or, well, it wasn't a streak. It got me going again. Got it back to 5-3. Because I was getting a little worried there. I was getting a little close. But yeah, so got that one right. And yeah, I would say that was a deserved one. But yeah, I think for most of these awards, I don't think there's too many that I would say didn't deserve it or didn't feel like they deserved to be on
like
there.
Tom says with all of them, it doesn't matter to him who wins. He recommends all the games that are nominated. They're all great games. Check them all out. We may say differently if we know some of these games, but but yeah, they are great. And onto the best theming, I went with Wonderland's War, just because I thought the Alice in Wonderland theme could draw in a lot of votes.
And I went with Heat because I feel like that to me has been the hottest game recently, and like even when they recently got like another shipment of it in, I think it like resold out like right away almost. So it's been tough to get, I think. And yeah, I was like, well, to me, I guess the only way that is like better than some of these other racing type games is it must really kind of feel thematic, sort of. I never played this one, but it was not enough for Heat to win. And actually, this was probably, to me, the most shocking out of all the winners.
Interesting.
And the winner was My Father's Work, so neither one of us had it right.
No.
And I don't know that I don't remember who the other nominees were, but I feel like this would have been...
think Nemesis was one.
So I would have probably picked that above Nemesis. But yeah, not to say it's not a great game, but I think it's a story-driven game, so maybe that's the part that makes it really come out.
A lot of story.
Yes, that's what I heard about it, because originally when I heard there was something about like possibly like passing things on and generations and stuff, I was like, ooh, this sounds really interesting. And because I think it was Renegade Games as well, is that right?
Yep.
And I was like, ooh, this sounds like one that I'm going to be really interested in getting. And then when the reviews started coming out and saying that it was a lot of reading, I was like, I was in my head hoping for more of a maybe Euro-y feel.
Yeah.
So that was just me hoping for something that it wasn't. Then in my head, I think it's just always had kind of a negative connotation with the game, but that's just because of my own expectations that they never actually promised, just in my head. So, deserving.
Yeah, very cool theme. But yeah, I think it did kind of just give that little negativity, even though the negativity was the theme.
Right.
But yeah, so might have to check that one out sometime if we ever have an opportunity. Onto best production, let's just drop value. Value doesn't matter anymore.
Right. They say production value, but they never care about that.
And they say it like half of the time. Like, it'll be printed on the website, but then when they announce it, they won't say it. They won't say value, but it'll be printed value. And I'm like, okay, so what is it?
Right.
I need that information to
there,
choose.
There is, in my mind, a difference between best production and best production value.
Yes.
If you don't care, you pay anything, whatever the price is, if you think the game looks amazing.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's different than, I'm on a budget of $40. What's the best looking game I can get for $40?
Yeah.
That also plays well.
Honey Buzz.
Honey Buzz, Trekking Through History is a solid one.
History. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of games that are like that, but you just assumed that they were going to stick to what they've done.
I lost all faith.
You assumed they were going to stick to what they've always done, and you picked one of the most expensive games that is very deluxeified.
That we have on the way. Yes.
That is on the way.
Yes.
I also think it's deluxeified, and I really like the look of it, and I did get it myself. So it is coming eventually. And I think they recently did announce Foundations of something, or it's a different game. It's, well, I think it might be similar, but it's a
Is this
non-deluxified version of
I see.
Foundations.
Was it just cardboard?
I think
something?
so. I'm not 100%
Oh,
sure,
boy.
but I think that's what they're doing. But then what did I pick here? Paleo Americans, Endless Winter. I thought it's a pretty good,
Yeah,
solid
it's got
production.
some really nice minis.
It's got a lot of good stuff in it. There's a lot of stuff. So
It really is.
yeah, I thought it's a good chance for it to win because it felt like that one was hot too. But I feel like that one maybe suffered as the way I thought maybe Flamecraft would. I think it was almost too early last year, and I think it had kind of lost some of its heat.
Yes, now it's in
When
an
it
endless winter.
So, Foundations of Rome did take it. I actually personally probably like the look of that one better, but I thought maybe they'll have it back a little bit because this one's like $200.
Yeah.
And that's I don't even know if that was including everything. It probably was $100 if you don't include it. I don't remember, but it was very spendy.
Yeah, and that's just going to be my strategy moving forward. Just look at the prices, pick the most expensive one. Okay. I assume this was the most expensive one. If it's not, then I'm a fool.
But yeah, so then it's what 5-4.
Yes.
So you're one off.
One off, and we move on to artwork. And I think this is the best year that we've been doing this for artwork.
For our personal taste, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think one year it was like 3 or 4 water-themed games, which is pretty hard to pick.
Right.
But then this one is also very hard because it's so diverse. And I went with Trekking Through History. So when I think you convinced me to switch. I think I had Wonderland's War. And then you convinced me to switch with the one that I personally preferred, and it's one of my all-time favorite box covers, Trekking Through History. And all the cards are amazing as well. And you, again...
went back to the well of Endless Winter Paleo Americans. And it makes me wonder, I don't know, has the Miko ever won a Dice Tower Award for Best Artwork? Because I just thought, well, this is a little bit different take than is normal. I mean, the people are still very similar to what he usually does, but with kind of the wintry background, it felt a little fresh for the Miko. So I thought this one might be his best chance of winning it. And we had talked about what ended up being the actual winner, I think, probably, as what maybe helped sell the game initially, I would say. And that is Flamecraft. So now I'm getting very worried about my pick for best game of the year. Because, Flamecraft is on a roll.
Because, at that point had 3 victories. So, that was Sundara Tang, artist for Flamecraft. Very cute game. I think it deserves it. I think all of them would deserve it.
I would agree. This
all
year
of them
was very
plus,
difficult.
like,
it was very difficult.
50 more
that
I could think of.
This year, like you said, the most difficult year to pick the artwork. I loved all the artwork on all of them. So.
And then on to your... Who cares about artwork? Let's get to mechanics. Let's get to strategy. Best strategy game. I went with Carnegie because I think it might have had the highest weight, complexity rating on Board Game Geek, and also had snuck pretty high into the rankings of Board Game Geek.
It's in like the top 200 rankings or something. So
I'd never even really heard anything of it other than you playing it solo on Board Game Arena.
I feel like that was before. I feel like that was before it even was available, readily available. It might have been I don't know. I don't remember if they kickstarted it or something, but I feel like it was on Board Game Arena before people were even getting copies and stuff. So it shocks me when we looked at how it was ranked and stuff. I was like, really? I just feel like I don't hear that many people talking about it, but it's a very beloved game. And I went with what's probably been one of my favorite ones of the year, and that is Wayfarers of the South Tigris. That one's another Miko artwork, and it's Shim Phillips, Sam McDonald design. It's just a nice amount of crunch to it, and it's just a nice new setting in the South Tigris, the blues and the yellows mixing together. The artwork's amazing. And then it has you do some interesting things as well. So I thought that was another thing that I wondered, has Garfield Game, has Chem ever won an award? Because I feel like they don't quite win that, but I don't know why. Because His games are definitely.
I feel like if
strategy
he
games.
didn't win it like in the first couple games, that then people are so used to those games and those series of games and trilogies that then they feel like, oh, is it different enough than those? Even though it may be good enough to win, it doesn't feel different
Right.
enough to
Right.
stand out.
And I think that was my one part that I wasn't sure of if I should pick it or not, because I was like, yeah, something like that where I'm like, I don't know if people feel like that's, yeah, if there's either a difference enough. I think it's very different than his
Yeah.
other ones, but yeah, I didn't
Does
didn't
it
know
make
how
an
people
impact?
thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we were both wrong.
We were both wrong.
I, of course, quit going with Paleo Endless Winter Paleo America, and then, oh, okay, now it wins. I go 2 straight, doesn't win those, and then it wins this one. So, I don't know. So I blame it for everything if I lose this.
Yeah, that. I'd say it's a little bit of a shock to me. Endless
Yeah.
Winter. We played it. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't feel like real strategy gamers would choose this as their favorite. Which I guess the voters on this are just everybody. It's the same. They can vote on everything here. So I guess it's not geared towards especially strategic players. So maybe that is kind of what helped it. Maybe it was more average players that did like this game that was a little more approachable and maybe not as intimidating as Carnegie.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's still, yeah, definitely a solid game. But
Yeah.
yeah, it did probably surprise me a little bit too, just because, yeah, to me, I guess when I think of this strategy category, I'm thinking of something that feels a little bit heavier, and I wouldn't say that like felt like really heavy, but
Yeah.
yeah, still wasn't. It's not a light game either. I wouldn't
Yeah.
like suggest it to someone entering the hobby. I don't think that would be the best way to introduce them.
Yeah.
So I think it still fits, but yeah, it felt a little lighter than I would have thought would have won this, but
Yeah.
still a good game.
Yeah.
And Stan seems like such a nice guy, the designer, so
Yeah.
he deserves
Good
to
for him.
win. He deserves to win one of these things after I'm voting for him 100 times and doesn't win those
And you
ones.
finally don't. He's like, oh, you stood with me the whole time, Zach.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. On to innovative game. You went with Cat in the Box here, which is, I think, yeah, you said someone had said, can it be innovative if it's also a reprint? So that is.
I hadn't really thought of that at the time, but
That is an interesting choice for this. Yeah, I don't know what I think about that. I don't know how much it changes. I can't imagine. Like, it's a pretty small game. Like, there's not that many rules. I can't imagine they changed that much that would all of a sudden make it innovative in this version that wasn't the first. But who cares?
yeah, if you've played the original that it's based on, let us know if it's the same type of thing where you have no colors on the cards and you're kind of winning tricks that way. Maybe there's not the board kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
I don't know what they changed, but yeah, I guess yeah. Hearing that comment, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't have. But yeah, I personally think it should have. For me, I would have thought it would win this over Best Reprint.
Oh, yeah, I would say so.
Had a better
too.
chance of winning this. So
Yeah. I went with Turing Machine just because kind of the math behind how you pretty much create a machine to check if your code is right or what information you get from your guess according to whatever kind of tests they have out on there. Like if your green number is bigger than your red number, and it'll tell you overlay a bunch of cards onto some answer board, and it ends up revealing they have holes in them. One square, and that's either like a check or an X. And I don't know how that works. There's some mathy way that it works, but I felt that that was going to blow people's minds. They wouldn't be able to understand it, and they'd just vote for it. And it seems that I was correct. Maybe that's not how it went down, but it did end up winning the innovative
people
category.
didn't even try to play it because it was so innovative. They
They just
didn't
looked at the
understand
cards with the holes and they're like, just take my vote.
So with that, you tied it up, going into the final award.
I tied it up.
And in my head, when it was live there, I was like, "Oh shoot!" Well, I didn't really know what the scores were, but I figured it was somewhat close. And I was thinking, "Oh no, Flamecraft's won 3 awards," and I thought you had picked Flamecraft. For some reason in my head, I thought, "Oh oh no, and Jesse's got Flamecraft, and I knew I had Heat. And I was like, oh no, that's going to cost me, isn't it? But then I went back and looked at our predictions. You did not pick Flamecraft. You picked Heat alongside me. So we both picked the same game, and also Heat ended up winning it. Just waited till the very end, the most prestigious of the awards, and ended up winning that one.
Yes.
So
yeah.
that was expected, I thought.
Yeah.
I'm guessing
I
you
think so.
weren't surprised by that.
No, I think that was possibly the easiest to pick out of all
Even
these.
though it was 10 versus the rest of
Yeah.
them being 5
Yeah.
nominees.
And I mean, there's amazing games in that 10 that I think could win it any other year.
Mhm.
It's just Heat. I mean, I don't even know. It's in the top 100 games of all time.
Already.
It's just a beast. It's a beast.
Days
And
of
you
Wonder
just-
is
you got-
back.
They're back, baby. But
Yeah,
I just had to go with it.
Yeah, that's one we're going to have to try at some point. And maybe that was, so I guess in the past we've kind of gotten a game from this list, the loser buys a winner
yeah.
game. So since we tied, I don't know what we do exactly, but maybe we end up having to get Heat since that was the all-time winner.
To get
Otherwise,
2 copies of Heat.
otherwise,
Yeah.
what do we got here? We could have them all vote on which ones are the ones we
yeah.
don't have available. Ready, set, bet, Heat, Touring
Yeah.
Machine. What else do we got? Anything else? Anything else? My Father's Work.
Dune expansion.
Dune Expansion.
Yeah.
Vote below. Let us know which one of those things should we get since it was a tie, or what should we do as a tiebreaker to see who the champion of this is. Maybe, like you brought up earlier, I was ahead in total over the first 2 years, so it's kind of ahead overall. So maybe it was me, but no. Yeah, so let us know. Let us know if you thought those winners were good ones, if you've played all these games and think, yeah, those are all amazing games, some of my favorite games. Or let us know if you think any of them didn't hit or sit well with you or weren't the greatest in your opinion.
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear it. But otherwise, we hope to see you on the next video. And as always, don't forget to
Keep on nibbling.
on our content.